Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. Hope you're all keeping safe and well and that your year's got off to a good start. I know it hasn't been great for everybody. I mean, for example, if you've been affected by the wildfires in America, then you have my sympathies and best wishes. And also best wishes to everyone over there for the next 4 years, given who's just got back into power. That's going to be interesting, to say the least, to put it politely. And then people over here in the UK have been affected by storms and things as well. We've been all right, though. It's been very wet and windy here, so I haven't been able to get out and do much. But yeah, it hasn't been great for some other people, especially up north where the weather's been particularly bad. But yeah, I've been doing all right. As I say, I haven't been out and done an awful lot because of the weather, but I have got myself a nice new winter coat from M&S, which was lovely, and I've had my hair cut as well. And the other big news is that we've had our new cooker installed as well, and that's working wonderfully. You know, if you've been following me over the past couple of months or so, then you'll know that our cooker broke down on Christmas Eve, so we had to kind of make do with a microwave combi oven while we were waiting for our new cooker to arrive that we ordered, and that has arrived. And as I say, it's working really nicely. It cooks meat and fish and things in the oven very well, and I've become a dab hand at doing cheese on toast under the grill, and the hob works nicely for cooking vegetables and gravy and stuff. So yeah, we're very happy with it, and touch wood, it's going to keep working nicely. So we're all kind of back to normal now, which is good. It's after that very busy and, as I say, slightly stressful Christmas. It's just good to be back into a normal routine again and just having normal meals and all that kind of thing. So that's good. But yeah, because I haven't been doing very much out and about, other than, you know, a bit of shopping and getting my hair cut and stuff like that, this favourites video this month is going to be relatively short. It's just going to be about bits of entertainment I've been enjoying. I have got some bits and pieces to go out and about and do that I've arranged, you know, in the next month or so and later in the year as well. But for now, this is just going to be a relatively short post, just about a few bits of entertainment. So I'm sorry it's going to be quite brief, but you know, I hope you enjoy it. And as always, there'll be more information in the blog post to go with this. And indeed, in a couple of longer blog posts for a couple of things I'm going to mention first. I've done quite comprehensive reviews of a couple of things in particular. So I'll start with those. And yeah, I just hope you enjoy everything I have to offer this month for this roundup. So I'll start with the first big one, which is Aardman Animations, because they're behind, obviously, Wallace and Gromit, whose new film, Vengeance Most Foul, came out over Christmas, which was really, really good and really, really popular as well, because since Christmas Day, it has now topped the 28-day ratings, even beating the Gavin and Stacey finale, which was ahead of it. But both of those, Wallace and Gromit and Gavin and Stacey, got over 20 million viewers in the 28-day ratings, which is phenomenal for two different shows on the same day, on the same channel as well, BBC One. So BBC can be very proud of that. So to celebrate the success of the new Wallace and Gromit film, not just the high ratings, but also the fact that it's been nominated for an Oscar as well, I thought I'd watch the other animated films by Aardman, some of which I'd seen before, some of which I hadn't. It was a good opportunity to go through them all. So I wrote a big blog post as I went through them as well, so you can check that out if you want to see my detailed reviews of everything. But I started off with Creature Comforts, in fact, which was a TV series that was out when I was a child. And they basically spoke to members of the public, interviewed them like Vox Pop style, but asked them quite random questions to get quite strange answers out of them. And then they put those answers into the mouths of animals in their animations. That works really, really well when you've got animals in a zoo or in other environments talking about things. There's even a guide dog in there as well and stuff. So that worked really well. It's really funny, really cleverly done. And then in terms of the films, obviously the big one alongside Wallace and Gromit is Chicken Run, about a group of chickens who try to escape from a farm. I'd seen that before, but it was great to see it again. And I also saw the sequel for the first time as well, which is on Netflix, called Dawn of the Nugget. And that's pretty good as well. Obviously not quite as good as the first film. Sequels rarely are. But it's still very, very good nonetheless. A lot of fun. That's about one of the young going over to the mainland from the island Paradise that they'd escaped to in the first film, and ends up in this really top security kind of chicken prison factory place, really, where they're all turned into food. So there's a much more elaborate rescue mission that has to go on there. So yeah, that's quite good fun. But then not all of Aardman's films were stop motion animation. They did a couple of CGI films as well, which doesn't look as good as stop motion animation. It doesn't have that kind of human feel to it. But nevertheless, the films aren't too bad, to be fair. In particular, Flushed Away isn't a bad film. It's actually quite fun in a lot of places. It's about a pet rat who basically gets tricked into being flushed down the sewer and ends up in this kind of underground city that he then has to try and escape from and get back to his home in Kensington again. So there's lots of London references in there that I like, and lots of visual gags in general, just as there are across all the Aardman films. They're really good at kind of planting lots of visual gags and Easter eggs and things, some of which I spot, some of which I don't, some of which I find out about afterwards online, things like that. But yeah, it is very enjoyable. All these films merit rewatching in some way, because you can often spot things you didn't see before. There's so much detail in them. And then the other CGI film they did was called Arthur Christmas, which isn't quite as good, really. It's a reasonably entertaining festive film, though, basically about the fact that a girl's present gets missed when they're doing all the deliveries. So after Santa's gone to bed with his wife and that, his son Arthur Christmas gets roped in with grandfather Santa to try and deliver this present to make sure the girl gets it in time, basically using the old sleigh with the reindeer and stuff rather than the kind of high-tech kind of sleigh that kind of Santa has these days. So yeah, that's quite fun. There's some fun moments in there, but it's not quite as good as the previous films I've mentioned, and the soundtrack isn't quite as good. Sometimes these films have really good kind of music on them and sometimes not so much. The actual scores that are done, like by the dedicated composers for each film, are good, but when they kind of add in contemporary tracks, sometimes they're great, sometimes not so great. And this particular film has a Justin Bieber cover that's horrible. So yeah, it varies, but then each of these films are bound to. And then going back to stop motion animation, the next film they made was called The Pirates in an Adventure with Scientists, which I'd never seen before. It's a film from 2012, but it's pretty good to be fair. And I was able to see it easily on my Amazon account because it was available for free with my Prime subscription. And it basically tells the story of a pirate captain played by Hugh Grant. They have some very big names in these films. And basically he dreams of winning the Pirate of the Year award, but hasn't really got a chance because there's much more experienced pirates out there than him, and he gets derided by them and teased and stuff. But he goes out there determined to try and do something and ends up stumbling upon the Beagle, where he meets Charles Darwin, of course, who's played by David Tennant. And basically the two of them end up hanging around together, and the pirate captain steals an award that Charles Darwin was going to win, so that makes him angry. And Queen Victoria, who they meet in London, she hates pirates, so she's after him as well. And yeah, there's a lot going on in that story, and as I say, lots of gags and things like that. It's good fun. I'm glad I checked that out. And that's one of the films where there is some very good music in there too. And then, of course, in relation to Wallace and Gromit, there is the spin-off Shaun the Sheep. I haven't seen his TV series because that's squarely aimed at children, so I'm not interested in that. As are the films to a fair extent, but they're also aimed a bit more at a family audience as well. And they are quite good, to be fair, especially the first film. And the first film is basically about Shaun and his woolly friends trying to rescue the farmer after he has an accident on the farm and end up going to the city having lost his memory, and they have to try and go and rescue him and bring him back again because they can't live properly without him. They need him. So that's very cute, very sweet. There's a lot of very funny moments in there, and it's very clever considering there's no dialogue at all. So yeah, that's really well made. The second film is then much more aimed at children, really, and I didn't watch all of it because it just didn't appeal to me, but it is quite cute for children. It's basically where this alien crash lands on a farm and they have to kind of help him get back home again. But yeah, it just wasn't quite for me, that film. I preferred the first one, but yeah, it was nice to check them out. And then the final film I watched of theirs, which is also the final film they released in cinemas before Netflix got them into a special contract and stuff, was called Early Man from 2018. And this is all about a Stone Age tribe that gets threatened for their land by a Bronze Age tribe who are kind of much more advanced than them and everything, much more powerful. And a youngster from the Stone Age tribe discovers that this new clan basically have this game called football that they'd never played before. So he ends up challenging them to a game, even though his tribe had never played it before. Their predecessors had played it, but they never realised that. So he basically has to kind of learn how the game works from watching the Bronze Age people playing it and then teach his tribe how to play it. And a girl from the Bronze Age clan helps them as well. So yeah, there's lots of gags to be had there as they kind of learn how to play the game and things. And yeah, there's plenty of visual gags and things in there as always. It's not as good as the Wallace and Gromit films or Chicken Run, so it's not something I'll necessarily watch again. But yeah, it was well worth checking out nonetheless. It's one of those films that's worth watching once to see what it's like. And yeah, it was just nice to check out all those films. You know, it was nice to see some things that I hadn't watched for a while and to watch some things that I'd never seen before. So that was good. I'm not tempted to buy any of them on Blu-ray because Wallace and Gromit is superior to all of them, and I'm happy just having that. But it was nice to check all these other films out as well. And then the other thing I had a binge on this month was stand-up comedian Michael McIntyre, who I love. I think he's brilliant. He's not to everyone's taste, I know, but I really like him. He's one of those comedians who can really properly make me belly laugh and make me kind of cry with laughter, genuinely. He's really good at that because he just has this wonderful grasp of observational comedy and just mining the humour from the most everyday and mundane things in life. You know, he talks about looking after his children, of course. That's obviously a huge treasure trove of comedy gold. And then just other things he gets up to while he's on tour, or just things he's observed around him in the world and, you know, in life and stuff. It's just really, really good. He's got a lovely kind of chirpy, kind of bubbly, energetic personality as well. He's skipping around the stage sometimes and things. Yeah, I just really like him. So he had his 25th year special on in December to celebrate his 25th anniversary in stand-up comedy. So I decided to watch all his DVDs that I have as well, with previous comedy specials, and his Netflix special that he has as well. So it's good to go through all of those again. Lots of great routines in there. So much classic comedy there. And then I also did a review in the same blog post of his Big Show as well, which is back for its 8th series, which I'm really glad about. It's a really entertaining Saturday night variety show. It's the BBC's response, in effect, to Saturday Night Takeaway, but better, I would say, because there's just so many kind of fun elements in there. Even when he's playing pranks on people, he's ensuring that everyone's having a really good time, and he really helps to give people some very special surprises as well. You have games like Centre Wall, where he takes a celebrity's phone and sends an embarrassing message to everyone in their contacts list to see what responses they get, and he looks through their phones as well to see what photos and apps they've got too. That's often comedy gold in itself. And then you've got things like the Midnight Game Show, where he bursts into celebrities' bedrooms in the middle of the night to play games with them. That's quite fun as well. And then there's pranks he plays on audience members too. He's taken over their TVs to show them fake versions of shows they like. He's taken frozen dinners from people's freezers and fed them back to them in restaurants. And he's filmed them secretly at karaoke and duetted them with the original stars who perform those songs on the stage in the theatre and stuff like that. But the big thing really involving members of the public is the unexpected star, where people who are really talented and deserving and everything get the opportunity to perform on stage, but they're tricked into appearing there via some very elaborate scenarios, very amusing ones as well. He makes it funny and a bit unusual for them without giving the game away. But then eventually they end up in a room where a wall falls down or something else happens, and they're revealed to be on stage in front of this huge audience, and they're invited to perform at the end of the show. They get a chance to relax and rehearse, obviously, but yeah, they're always really good, them. I mean, even this series, we had like an 81-year-old man whose wife was dying with dementia at the time, and he was going to a care home and singing to her every single day, and we got a chance to perform his song on stage. It was really good, and there was a nice tribute to her at the end of the credits as well, his wife, because she'd obviously passed away since it was filmed. And there's lots of little things like that. He's done family reunions, and there's been a proposal on the show in the past as well, and things like that. So yeah, he really does kind of care that everyone has a good time and feels special and everything like that. There's so much going on, and they try new things out as well. There's a new game called Remember Me this series, where celebrities are invited to try and figure out who people are from their past or even their very recent history. Do they remember people that they've encountered for whatever reason? So that's worked pretty well. I think that'll probably come back in future series. And yeah, it's just really good. Lots of great guests. Some guests and some segments I'm not a huge fan of, naturally being a variety show, but they're easy enough to skip over. But on the whole, it's a very good show, and there's a reason it's back for an 8th series. It's just very popular. So I've written, as I say, a detailed review of that in my blog post if you want to find out more about it. I just find it really fun. It's a great way to spend a Saturday night. And in terms of Saturday night entertainment, of course, I have to mention Gladiators as well in that case, because that's another big hit for the BBC, and I'm really enjoying that. It's one of those revivals where they've really stuck to the elements of the original that made it great and just polished it up a bit for the modern age. And indeed, this second series is a bit more kind of refined and slicker than the first series. Now they've really found their feet. They're getting a bit more ambitious with it, a bit more confident and stuff like that. Even Barney Walsh, who is a co-host with his more experienced presenter father, Bradley Walsh, he's much more confident now. They work much better together as a pairing. It feels much more natural. There are new gladiators in there as well, which is good to see, and there's new events coming in. So they've got the return of Atmospheres from the original series, as well as a new game called Unleashed, so that's fun. And the contestants are all great sports, and you can see that it's tough sometimes because of the way they struggle, and even now and again they get injured as well. And as much as the gladiators are kind of big pantomime villains, when things do happen to the contestants, they do show their caring side as well. It's all about everyone having fun at the end of the day. Yeah, it's just a really fun show. I'm glad they brought that back and not messed around with it too much. And indeed, they're very respectful of the original show as well, even to the point where at the end of the first episode, they paid tribute to John Anderson, the referee from the original ITV series, who also did appear in the first series of the short-lived and not very good Sky revival. But particularly from the ITV series, John Anderson was a fantastic referee, and he died last year and is very sadly missed. So it's lovely that they paid tribute to him on the BBC show, considering it used to be an ITV show. So that's kind of very generous and sporting of them, if you'll pardon the pun. So yeah, they often make references to the original series, just to remind people that there used to be a series in the past, which is lovely. But returning to comedy, because I haven't quite finished with that yet, I also saw a new special by Russell Howard that he released online this month, and it's online on a platform called Drift until the end of February, so you haven't got much time to watch it if you want to catch it, although hopefully he'll release it somewhere else at some point soon. But it was basically filmed on his recent international tour, in which he played 237 gigs in 141 cities across 30 countries. It was huge, and I went to one of those shows at the London Palladium in April 2023, which I reviewed in the past, and his special was filmed at the Palladium, but not on the night I was there. But I did remember some of the material vaguely. Obviously I couldn't remember all of it because it was a long time ago since I saw it, but comparing it with things I wrote in my blog and in my journal afterwards, some of the material was definitely similar, as I would expect it to be. But yeah, it's very good. He's not as good as Michael McIntyre, and I'm not sure he's at his absolute best in this show either. but it is still very good. He is still very funny. He kind of mixes talking about current affairs with other things from his personal life as well. So there's a good kind of mixture there. In terms of stuff relating to the news and society, he talks about how some words have changed their meanings and get misused, and lies and clickbait in the media, and anti-woke people, and COVID vaccinations, and people like Andrew Tate and that kind of stuff. And then in terms of other things, he talks about why he loves being a comedian, trying to be vegan, how we all kind of laugh at stuff we shouldn't, have a bit of dark humour and everything, and why it's not really that harmful, and silly behaviour in his childhood, which he often talks about in his shows, and what he envies about women, the strange things that go on in his mind in general, as is obvious from some of the stuff he talks about, and how his dad nearly died on one occasion as well. And then he finishes by focusing on the funny and heartwarming moments that you experience and witness in life that make you realise it is good to be alive. And he explains why we're all what he terms lucky jizz. I won't explain why, you have to watch the show, but it makes sense the way he puts it. So it's a good show. It lasts for an hour, and there's also a 20-minute bonus feature on the end where he comes back on stage and answers some random questions from the audience about various things. So that was good. I'm glad I saw that too. And then in terms of other comedy, I've been watching a lot of my usual stuff, of course. So 8 out of 10 Cats does Countdown is back for a new series, for example, which I'm glad about because I knew they'd held some episodes back because they hadn't been filming any new ones for a while, or not many, because budget cuts and stuff like that. So it's been nice that they've released some new episodes at last. And then there's also things like The Last Leg and Would I Lie to You, and more episodes of QI, that kind of thing. So there's been plenty of comedy to keep me amused this month. And then the final thing I want to mention is an audiobook, which is unusual, I know, because I don't listen to books very often, so I don't talk about them very much. I kind of want to do so at some point in the future because I've got lots of books that I do want to listen to, but I just get busy with other things, so I just don't get around to it much. But this is well worth listening to. My friend Claire very kindly gifted this to me for Christmas, and it's called The Blind Detective by Christina Koning, or it's been previously known under a different publisher as Line of Sight by AC Koning. And my mother and I have been listening to this bit by bit each night while we're having our dinners, just doing like half a chapter or a whole chapter each night, depending on how long each chapter is. And it's really good. We're really enjoying it. It's set in London in 1927 and is about a married guy called Frederick Rowlands. He's got a wife and children, and he's also blind. He was blinded during the First World War. So there's lots of references to that, which is quite interesting. And he has this job in the city looking after a switchboard, and through that job he kind of gets to know this quite alluring woman. And as a result of that, because he's quite kind of attracted to her and stuff like that, he ends up getting tied up in this murder mystery unintentionally as well, which has big ramifications for his life and his family and stuff like that. And it's a very kind of intriguing murder mystery story. There's little twists and surprises along the way. It's really well done in that respect. But what we also like about it is the fact that it's very descriptive, because it's written from his point of view being blind. So he's gleaning a lot of information about the world from his other senses, which we can very much relate to, my mother and I, because we both have different degrees of sight loss ourselves. So we can relate to that. We can relate to the things they're talking about in London as well. There are lots of places that they mention that I recognise, which is nice. And it just really comes together nicely. It's really well constructed and really well written, and you get to know the characters really well. And as I say, there's a lot of great mystery there too. So we're really enjoying listening to that. At the time of filming, we haven't quite finished it yet, but it has been getting very, very interesting. Some very big surprises in there. So we're looking forward to seeing how that finishes. But I can highly recommend it. And it is part of a series of books, so we are going to check out the other books in that series as well. So thank you, Claire, for bringing us onto that. That is really, really good. And that is it. That is all I have to mention for this month. And it's a relatively short post, so I hope you found bits and pieces of interest in there, despite it being quite brief. As I said before, there is a lot more information in the blog anyway, not just in the favourites post, but also in the extended post I did about Aardman Animations and Michael McIntyre. And there's an old post I did about Russell Howard and his stand-up specials as well, which you can also go and check out. They'll all be linked in the description below. Obviously, when I write about comedians and stuff, I don't write about every single show they've ever appeared in. I know what they've done because it's all online and stuff like that, and I've seen clips online and all the rest of it, but I don't write about everything they've done. It's not a biography. It's just things I want to kind of focus on. So, there's always links in those posts to check out other stuff they've done, and playlists that I like to put together for some of them. There's a big playlist of Michael McIntyre stuff that I've got on my channel, for instance, so you can watch lots of clips of him on there too. So don't worry if I don't mention particular shows or things that comedians have done. I do know about these things because they're online anyway. I just focus on the things that interest me the most. But apart from that, in February, I've got a couple of things planned that I'm looking forward to, weather permitting. Obviously, that could scupper things, given how things have gone lately. But hopefully they'll happen. And there's a couple of other things I'm kind of looking into that I hope will come to fruition. But that is it. Otherwise, really, there's not a lot else to mention, to be honest. It's just been a nice, quiet month, a nice, easy start to the year, which is kind of what I wanted after kind of a busy Christmas period, and also with all the kitchen stuff we'd had done last year as well. It's just been nice to relax and get back into a normal routine this month, which has been the important thing to start the year off. And I hope, as I say, you've had a good start to the year as well, that you're managing if it's been difficult. And I hope you have a good month in February as well, whatever you're planning to get up to. And yeah, I'll leave it there. That's all I've got to say, really. So thank you very much for watching, as always. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe as per usual. And take care of yourselves. And I will see you for another video very soon. Bye for now.